Hello, everyone. My guest today is Jose Cayasso. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Slidebean. He's a TEDx speaker, graphic designer, and has transformed into a growth hacker. He's also a frequent flyer miles hoarder. Jose, are you ready to take us to the top?
I'm ready. Thanks a lot for having me again, Nathan.
How many frequent flyer miles do you have?
Piling up on a couple 100,000 at this point.
And does it just give you gratification to just hoard them and you're never going to use them?
Yeah. I try not to use them. Like if I have money, I try to pay for the ticket and then hoard more miles. Some family random trip, then I spend them just to make sure I do.
All right. Last time you were on the show was back in June of 2017. At that time, you had about 2,500 customers paying $50 a month, doing about $122,000 a month in revenue. Where are you today?
Actually, not that far from there, and it's an interesting story. I was actually hesitant to come back and then say that we haven't really grown our monthly recurring revenue too much. But for the past year or so, we've been really focused on improving the app itself and improving so many holes, like so many holes in the bucket and the funnel and churn. So we kind of took an important company decision. We build ourselves to have a profitable team and then not to force ourselves to be in a position to raise money again, and then use that revenue simply to improve on the product, knowing full aware that we were gonna stop most of the growth hacking efforts and simply dedicate on building a much more solid product to support our users much better.
Well, thank you for coming back on. I think people that do what you do have to be celebrated because many people think the only thing to celebrate is when you raise the next round of funding, which is totally inaccurate. So walk me through what you did to right size the business. First things first, you haven't raised any more capital. You still just 850 grand in total?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. You had a team size of 22. It sounds like you may have shrunk that a little bit to save some costs. What's the team size today?
We're still 20. So not that far from where we used to be. But again, a much larger focus on the product. Again, when you're building a product so fast and when it grows so fast, in our case, we grew from 0 to 80K revenue in a couple of years. You leave a lot of stuff.
You're talking
behind
80,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were founded in 2014.
That's right.
Yep.
When you grow that fast, you leave a lot of stuff behind. You leave a lot of stuff that's not relevant enough because if you don't improve the servers, then the tool will crash in a couple months. Or if some design rough edges that you never have time to polish. And it's really hard to kind of look back and see all the stuff that is pending. That you realize that if you keep focusing on growth and then supporting more customers, you're never going to be able to fix that. That's number one. And then number two, we had the advantage of running the operation profitable, which is something that few companies do, right? So if we're profitable, we really don't depend on further rounds of funding. We rather, improve improve, for example, our margins, and then developing the app so that the app and the automation so that less manual effort is required, and then working towards that so that eventually when we decide to kind of focus or refocus on growth, we can do so with an app that's powerful enough to support where we're going next.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Now, last time you came on, you said you were burning $10,000 to $20,000 per month, and that was net burn, not gross. So are you now cash flow positive?
We are. We're actually dealing with a bunch of new problems this year, like taxes on our revenues and actual margins.
Yeah, like there's actually something hitting the bottom line, so you have to pay taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And give me an update on revenue. What are you doing per month now?
So it's still in the range of 100 to 150K revenue. It fluctuates a lot. We run some promos that that spike the revenue up. We motivate a lot of users to pay yearly, and that's something that any SaaS business should really focus on. When a customer pays yearly or prepays an annual plan, you have that revenue up front, and you have that revenue to invest again in growth, or to invest in the product, or to invest in the team. You also don't have to deal with churn for a few months. So we focus on that a lot. And then as we change the interface and so on, it fluctuates between those numbers.
Yeah, but Jose, I imagine you probably keep a cash kind of base balance, P&L, and also a kind of a deferred revenue one. So really, on a SaaS company, anytime I hear revenues are volatile, it sends up warning flags. Because if you're taking an annual plan that hits this month and dividing by 12 and recognizing it over 12 months, you still should see pretty smooth revenue numbers. So if you give me the monthly recurring revenue number on a deferred basis, what are you doing per month?
Yeah, and when we talk monthly recurring revenue, we always do we always talk at deferred. Like we never count. Like,
so why is it
why
is it going up and down so fast?
But the final monthly recurring revenue, which is around the 100K, that's one number. But the actual revenue that we collect in a month,
it's cash. It's cash, not cash. Revenue, right? The cash you collect.
Exactly.
Yeah,
the cash we collect. That's right.
Yeah, and that's because of annual plans.
Mostly annual plans. We've run a couple of promos like AppSumo, which is a very, very powerful platform. We're talking $30,000 of revenue by just running that promo. Yeah, but
Jose, come on. Like, you're selling, the only reason their thing works is because everyone goes, wow, AppSumo is going to give me a lifetime deal to a SaaS business. That's amazing.
But that's interesting. And we thought of that and we were super hesitant, but we notice significant spikes in actual cash that comes through our own credit card processing.
Of course, because they're selling a one-time thing and you basically give into the urge of a $40,000 or $50,000 one-time check, but you're sacrificing lifetime value on all these accounts.
I'll still defend it on two bases. One, these are customers that would probably not discover you otherwise. And then two, we get the cash from AppSumo like on a deferred net 60 or something. But the month the AppSumo promo runs, because of all the buzz that they generate around the product, we actually see an important spike in actual customers that come through the platform directly, simply because they heard from somebody in AppSumo. I don't know how many subscribers they have, probably 1 million emails or something, but it is significant. And have you
done a cohort analysis though on that? On the AppSumo customers? Look, AppSumo is like JCPenney. They're not coming in unless you give a coupon, right? And
that's right.
And they cancel and they don't have no loyalty and they switch quickly. And so like what Noah has built, such a genius. I mean, such a smart guy, because every CEO wants instant cash, and he's going, fine, I'll give you a $40,000 check, which is 30% of whatever sales we drive you. I'll give you that check. But guess what? You're going to give me a great deal. I'm going to basically switch your whole model from a SaaS business to a freaking agency, one-time payment. And maybe our monthly thing will drive you a couple dozen subscribers each month and you'll use it to validate it. But the cohort typically is super high churn. They don't stick. They bombard your customer support. It wastes your time, but you get a little cash up front.
Yes, but the reality is, okay, so many of these customers will go away. They'll just give you the money and
so why do you want them? That's my point though. Like, why do you want, those are, getting AppSumo customers is not necessarily good for your long-term health. And you're potentially seeing that over the past year, right?
No, I'll give you top of my head numbers. I'll say that out of the 100% customers that subscribe from AppSumo, which is a few thousand, I'll say 80% try the product a couple times and then don't come back. Some pressure on the customer team the week the promo runs, but that's about it. And then the other 20% actually become very active, very powerful customers, because the AppSumo audience.
We'll quantify that though. Quantify that. So what's that cohort's churn?
Because there's no churn. It's a one-time payment and they'll never pay again.
So then what do you mean? What do you mean they're a powerful thing then? All they do is they pay you once and then you have to support them for life.
Yeah, but for a SaaS company, supporting customers is super cheap. But they're powerful in the sense that they refer the product, they're super active. And we were hesitant of kind of considering their feedback or the stuff that they use. But many of these AppSumo customers have become some of our power users, in the sense that they have discovered every single feature in the app, which is something that not everybody necessarily does.
You're running a nonprofit.
All right.
No, that's seriously, I always wonder about this, because again, what Noah has done is genius. I'm not hitting him, by the way. I mean, it's the CEO's urge for quick cash that is the fault of like why these work so well. But like that's why it works. It's interesting to me. And the also thing people never consider is you're selling these lifetime plans, but if in 2 years you have to shut the company down or you sell the company and the acquiring company shuts it down, dang well you cannot commit to a promise to support someone for life. No SaaS company can. And so by selling. So like I have a big issue when people sell lifetime plans. I think it's cheap. I think it's a marketing tactic. And I think it's totally disingenuous and hurts your personal brand if and when you have to shut the company down or sell it.
I think the SaaS companies, we'll have to see what happens with lifetime plans with SaaS. I don't think that, no SaaS company has been here for more than, 20 years.
Then why would you sell a lifetime plan?
Yeah, then, eventually, I don't know what'll happen.
Why not sell a lifetime plan and
years.
then the next week shut the company down?
Yeah, you could do that, I suppose.
But do you see my point? I just think you undercut. I think you undercut yourself, because I remember when you came on the first show, I'm like, this is a great tool, which we haven't talked about, by the way. We should talk about what the tool actually does. Great tool. Visual content is in right now, so like this is hitting on like the perfect time, perfect market. But like you've taken the thing and you've gone like doing an absolute deal. You've gone like downstream, right? If you're going that direction, you have to go like Hootsuite model, high millions of paying customers at a really low price point versus enterprise, which is I thought the track you were on last time.
That's a change, and that's also an interesting story. So we kind of like look ourselves in the mirror, and we compared ourselves with other presentation platforms. So it turned out we are literally the only presentation platform today that's premium only. We offer a free trial that lasts about 14 days, and that's about it. But even in the trial, it's a limited trial. You can't present when you're in a trial, and you can't necessarily download your presentation when you're in a trial. So that's created some issues with our free users. So, even today we're subscribing around 30,000 new signups every month. So we get 30,000 people who are interested in using Slidebean, who've discovered it for one reason or the other, and come into the platform, hopeful to try it and excited about it. And then we have a paywall, which makes it disengaging for many of them. So we convert an average of a SaaS company, which is around 3%. So 3% of them become paid customers. So out of these 30,000 people, we get around 900 that eventually become paid customers. But we've started thinking about the other 29,000. Like, these are people who we're just kicking out the door, even though they were willing to try it. So
Jose, how many customers are you at today?
Around 10,000 people.
Okay, well, last time you were at 2,500 paying customers. Now you're at 10,000. Now let me ask you a question. That 10,000 number you just gave me, does that include the couple thousand that are one-time payments that are not real SaaS revenue?
No. These are actual subscribers.
Those are actual monthly subscribers.
Yeah.
Okay, so your price point must have come way, way down. Last time you were at $49 a month. What's it at now?
That's right. Our base plan now starts at $8 a month.
Interesting. So you've really gone down market. Yeah. Why? What drove that?
Yeah, and so I'll go back to this story. So we were the only presentation platform, the only premium presentation platform out there. All the others, even PowerPoint's a premium product, but it comes on your computer, right? So you almost get it for free. Google Slides is free. Keynote comes with every Mac. So we realized that we were competing with these products that were very differently priced. And then again, we were bringing 30,000 people in every month. Yep. Converting about 3% of them, and then the other 29,000 losing.
And you still are today. That's kind of your rate today. 30,000 in, convert 900.
That's our rate today. So we've started really considering becoming a freemium product. This is very dangerous. This is the most dangerous experiment we've considered, because we are a profitable company and because we don't plan to raise money. We're not in a position to raise money now. So
you'd get killed. You'd get, if you raise money today, it'd be a huge down round.
Right. So we're not in a position to raise money, but we want to try freemium. So we want to give something so that these other 29,000 people can become users and we need to measure, there are two inevitable curves if we switch the flip and make the product freemium, which are conversion rate will go down. We don't know how much, but it'll go down because people who used to pay no longer have to, because they have some stuff that they can do for free. And then engagement should go up at least a little bit. Now, the question is, if engagement, which is monthly active users, organic traffic, referrals, word of mouth, how much will that increase, and will it compensate for the downfall of conversion rate? And it's very hard to test this. I mean, there's really no way to know unless we actually do it and test it. So we actually started rolling this out in a few countries. I can't say which countries specifically because I don't want people VPNing our app.
Do you think people care that much to VPN in to save $8?
I don't know. We'd just rather avoid it. But we were very transparent about this whole process. I wrote a full blog post on kind of our thought process behind this. And then that's the idea. In these countries where we've launched the freemium version, we are testing how much does how much does engagement increase? How much does organic traffic increase? 1 week, 1 month, 6 months after we become freemium in that country, and does that compensate for the conversion rate? And is this something that we can roll out worldwide?
Tell me who's not a customer fit for you, a customer you don't want.
The classic people that we kick out the door, actually, which is a bit compared to what we talked about last time, is corporate customers. So we sometimes get like a large company that would come in and say, we had a situation with EY, for example. So they would come in and say, hey, we want to use your product. Someone from the management team, someone high up in the company, we want your product, but we need you to customize this and this and this and this for us. That's not our customer today. Why? Because all our focus is on making this product fit for the other 29,000, right? On roughing up the edges. If we dedicate part, at least, of our development team to building features that will only work for that company or for other large customers, then we kind of lose track on the other end.
But
enterprise is actually not our customer today. What we do with enterprise, and we have customers from Nike, for example. Just a name that came up, but it's real. But it works the other way around. It works bottom up. So somebody in the company discovers it, pays for Slidebean out of their own card or with little permission request, and then they start rolling out the product. And we see companies that went from 1 to 10 or 20 accounts, not coming from the management team, but for somebody in the company that just discovered it.
Yeah. I mean, look, when you tell me about the enterprise deals, if you reply back, no, we can't customize it like that, right? But we're willing to set up a license for you. What would you be willing to pay? And if they came back and said 10 grand a month, right? Like, it's interesting to me because you cut off those conversations. And I just wonder if freemium products, like I've interviewed a bunch of people that have done this really, really well, and things like LastPass, everyone has online passwords. Things like Expensify, right? Everyone has expenses they need to track. Things like Mint, right? These things work on things that everyone has to do. And I just wonder how many people have to do presentations, or are there other use cases you've discovered that every person does on a daily basis that they can use Slidebean for?
Yeah, and it's something that we deal with as well. Most of our churn, for example, is coming from people that don't need to make presentations on a monthly basis. But that's the reality of pretty much any presentation platform. And you see
maybe a freemium model at this price point, but if you do an enterprise deal where there's a little professional services setup fee, actually the lock-in can be very good, and the numbers are huge.
That's true. But one other struggle with presentation platforms that we discovered on the enterprise end is in the end, when people think about a tool to make presentations specifically, as cool as Slidebean is and as much time as we save them, we inevitably get compared with Google Docs. We inevitably get compared with PowerPoint. So PowerPoint already came in all the systems that they purchased out of, and came with Office. And Google, it probably comes in with the email that they're using, right? So we don't get that side-to-side comparison. We get an additional expense sort of situation, which makes it,
I don't understand that.
Okay, so if you
say you feel like you're competing with Google Docs and you're competing with PowerPoint.
No, but in the minds of the person who made an enterprise decision, we sort of are.
So why would you go down market and make yourself more free, more like these are the free tools? Why wouldn't you go the opposite way and say, no, we're so totally different than Google Docs or PowerPoint. That's why we're 10 grand a month. Here's why, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. The only presentation platform that does that today is ClearSlide. They've become kind of like the ultimate sales platform for the ultimate presentation platform for sales.
Well, like PandaDoc. I can actually name 10 companies in this space that do presentations for a specific cohort of user. Some of it's board decks. Some of it are for salespeople. Some of it's managing these things so that when a salesperson's on a sales call and they say, yeah, I'll follow up with slide deck X, they can quickly find the slide deck. Like I can name 10 companies that have gone upstream that are doing presentations that are killing it, that are not competing directly with these freemium products. Because see, what you're doing is you're basically saying, you know what? I'm going to compete directly with Google Docs. I'm going to make it free, go freemium, and try and get more users than Google. And I just question your ability to execute that.
It is a question, and again, this is why we don't roll out free everywhere. We need to make sure that this will work.
Yeah.
Upstream again was a struggle, mainly because the way we built Slidebean, we built it as a as a presentation creation platform. And PandaDoc, as you mentioned, or DocSend, for example, which is another example, they're built for a specific purpose. Or from the get-go, DocSend was a document tracking platform. So they have the technology and the analytics and the dashboard to really measure that. All these 4 years we've spent building a creation platform that it ultimately also works very differently from what you see in a traditional software. It works very differently. It's a very quick learning curve compared to something like Prezi, but it is very different. So this is what we're experts at, and we realize that we're not yet experts at document tracking, though we offer that feature. We're not yet experts at at sales presentation. We're experts at saving you time when creating decks, and the reality of our sort of marketing funnel. These, and we kind of pay attention to these 30,000 people we get every month. If we were to go upstream, we could say, no, we're just not going to focus on you guys anymore. But we have 30,000 leads that we didn't have when we got started. This is another story when we, at the very beginning, and this actually saved our company. We have, the closest example to Slidebean when we launched was a company called Bunker that went out of business 2-3 years ago. We had a somewhat similar product, and they took the freemium route at that point. So they were free. They had like a very hidden paid plan, but they were just looking for the million customers, right? They went out of business because they couldn't get to their next round and they didn't have cash to survive. We were lucky and also made the right decision of becoming a premium product then, which gave us the cash and the revenue to support the team and to allow us to continue developing the platform. But as we've tested the waters, and we did for most of last year with enterprise and with going upstream, and we failed at that for a number of reasons that we can talk about. Our next bet was freemium, and putting ourselves,
which is what put Bunker out of business. You just said the reason Bunker went out of business because they ran out of runway trying to pursue a freemium model and get millions of users.
That's right. That's what put them out of business. But it's also what has Prezi at the point where they are today.
How much has Prezi raised?
Prezi was raised about $300 million or something.
Because it's expensive to compete with Google and PowerPoint.
Oh, of course it is very expensive. Yeah.
So I'm trying to get in your head and understand why you think you have a standing chance to do this on a model that is not heavily VC backed. Basically what you've done is you said, you know what, this is a risky model. We've been flat over the past year. I'm going to go cash flow positive, which is fine. Buy yourself some time. But you're just locking yourself into a lifestyle business where you're going to keep paying yourself $80,000 a year salary, stuck with a cap table of VCs that you're going to work for a decade to try and get their $850,000 back, when you could be using the years right now, which are your most valuable years of your life, going and taking $1 billion risk on something much bigger. Why not sell this company for $1 million and get the hell out?
All right. It's a valid point. But
would you sell for $1 million?
No, of course not.
Why not?
Because if I were selling for $1 billion, I'd just rather have a lifetime business.
See, I sold my Heyo. People don't know this. Heyo was doing about your size, almost exact same story. You know what I sold it for? I sold it for $300,000 because I realized the opportunity cost of being a 24-year-old and paying myself $120,000 salary, which is what I was paying myself. We were venture backed for the next decade. It was very safe and very comfortable. But these are the premium years of my life. Thank God I sold that company at a huge loss. I gave investors back about 80 cents on the dollar. And you know what? I've made them all money. I'm now an investor in many of their funds as an LP because of the money I've made doing other software projects. I just hope you don't get stuck. That's all I'm saying. Because I think you're talented. And I think the way you think about problems is really, really important. But I also think you have to deal with the other thing, which is you've raised capital and you feel a little guilty about trying to figure out how to get that money back to them.
Right. And we have the advantage of having a very good relationship with our investors, and they're kind of on board with the plan. But I'll take it in, and then I really respect your opinion.
Well, I'm pushing you not to convince you one way. I just want to get more in your brain, right? You ultimately do your thing, but again, I think you're very talented. Okay,
that's fine. And again, I really respect you questioning me. Someone with your experience, in the end, we don't get to chat. I don't get to chat with a lot of people with your background, and then you questioning me is enough for me to kind of rethink what we're doing.
Well, listen, don't people give you advice
No, no,
all
no.
day. People give you
We'll
advice
just-
all day long. So don't let me bounce you around too much. And I don't have a ton of experience. I mean, we're the same age, but I have talked to about 3,000 of these founders and tried to simulate patterns. And I've fired the questions at you today based off some of the patterns I've seen. So we'll certainly stay in touch, and it'll be fun to see what you're doing. Thank you again for coming back on, knowing that you were going to have a conversation like this. It sounds like you kind of anticipated it. So I appreciate that. Let's wrap up on a much friendly, easier note. Give me your favorite business book.
Traction, the book on the 23 different growth methods. As you know, as I've focused on the growth stuff, it's really amazing, to reconsider stuff that you've never thought of, and to force yourself to think of growth tactics that are not in your direct experience. So that is my favorite business book still.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I really like Josh from Baremetrics. I like what he does with his blog. I think that he sort of accepted that his startup, that End started being as a large venture-backed company, is becoming more of a lifetime business, and that's something that the startup billion-dollar round story is the one that we all aim for. But sometimes when times are rough, you have to deal with the other options, which are not bad, are super bad when I talk to you and you say, hey, you want to settle for a lifetime business. But Josh has sort of lived up with that. So I really love his blog.
Yeah, look, the second, it doesn't matter if you raise $1 or 100 million. The second you've raised with someone else's money, they can tell you they're patient. They can tell you they love you. But ultimately, when their LPs come knocking and saying a decade later and say, where's the return? And they need that, right? It's going to force action. You can't I don't think you just sit on it. Now, maybe you VCs listening are going to email me after this and tweet at me and go, Nathan, you're wrong. We would sit in a company for a decade, right? And not care, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Number 3 here, Jose. What's your favorite online tool?
Intercom. I think it's the most, it's the backbone of our company in so many senses, Intercom.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
5 hours, I would say.
Okay. And what's your situation? Married, single, do you have kids?
I'm married and I have a kid.
Oh, good. How old's the kid?
4.5.
Oh, that's great. And how old are you?
I'm 29.
29. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
That you can start your own business and make a lot of money out of it. I wish I knew that early on. You can take more risks when you're younger and you don't have a family to support.
Guys, start a business faster. That's what he would have told himself. Building up Slidebean, presentation software for everybody. Founded in 2014, now at about 20 people. He right-sized the business over the last year. They raised $850,000, flat year over year, doing about $100,000 per year in revenue. But again, profitable, which is key. It's buying him time to run some of these tests that he's thinking through. So hopefully we'll have you back on, Jose. You'll give us an update on the tests and we'll keep cranking. In the meantime, thanks so much for taking us to the top.
Thanks a lot, Nathan.